All right, and we're back, and I'm joined today by Joe Habib, G Funky, and Chicano Prophet. This is Amilcar Maestro A filling in for D Style, and already fucked up, so hopefully I don't fuck up for the rest of the night. Forgot to hit that go live button, but we're here and we're live, and this is the Leave It in the Ring Roundtable, all right, hosted here by D Style on his channel. Pleasure to have all you guys here, and we'll just do it again. How are you guys doing tonight on this Thursday?
Doing good, doing good.
Feeling good, and as I was mentioning, I'm going to have to give G Funky the Prophet moniker if he keeps getting things right.
Well, yeah, I've labeled him G Funkstradamus, and what we were saying backstage earlier was that he led, or he caused, I should say, one of the most epic moments I've seen in the YTBC, and definitely on Hispanics Causing Panic when D-Style took that big-ass pie to the face. That was a moment to be remembered for sure. Thoughts, G-Funky?
Yeah, man, that was good stuff. And, credit to D-Style, man, for being a man of his word and a good sport, taking a pie to the face, but you guys got to tell him, man, he's got to stop betting against me, man. He's going to have so many pies in the face. His street name is going to be Pie Face from now on, man.
That's a good one, Pie Face. I like that. So we were backstage earlier, and I was actually going over a topic that. Sorry, go ahead, G Funky. Hello. Yeah. So I thought G Funky was saying something there. So we're going over a topic, and it's actually one of the most epic moments and epic days in the history of boxing. This February the 25th. And obviously I'm talking about what happened many, many decades ago when one young Muhammad Ali, at that time going by the name Cassius Clay, way back in 1965 or 64, absolutely manhandled and destroyed Sonny Liston, a guy he was favored to basically, who was favored to beat him. And he was a young upstart at that time, making a name for himself. He had won the Olympic gold medal, obviously, for the USA, famously tossed it in Louisville due to kind of the discrimination he faced when he returned home. But biggest moment in his career up to that point, huge epic moment in the history of boxing, February the 25th, 1964. Obviously, this is way before any of our times, decades ago. But if any of you could speak to that moment and kind of its impact on the sport, why don't we start with you, Joe?
Well, I mean, obviously, it was probably the first big upset that most people can, really recall. Obviously, there's been a ton of upsets in the heavyweight division. And ironically enough, Mike Tyson lost to Buster Douglas in the same month of February. So February must be a bad luck month for the heavyweight champion. But, that fight, a lot of fans were wanting Ali to lose. And Ali was the first guy to really talk that trash, and he backed it up. So everyone thought he was just a mouth, but he proved he was more than just a mouth. So he wasn't just that brash young kid from Louisville. He actually proved that he was the greatest. So we have to give him credit for that. But we weren't born then, so we can't really talk too much about the climate and what all of the political things that were going on at the time. But Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali, and he was in an environment where it was really hard for African Americans to, excel. And he made a statement not only just in boxing, but politically and socially. and that was the beginning of his journey. So,
Yeah, absolutely. G Funky, I think you're on mute, brother. Well, why don't you go ahead then, Chicano Prophet, if you can hear me.
Yeah, I love going back and watching these old fights. It's really amazing to watch what he was doing at just 22 years old. When I watch Ali, it helps me take a look at like the modern product, the modern heavyweight fighters, and actually size them up against each other and assess skills and see what heavyweights can really be capable of. And like Joe Habib was saying, we really don't have the opportunity to kind of go back and remember what it was like as far as the political climate goes. But if you go back and read on it, it's really amazing how outspoken he was for it being the mid 60s. And I could see a lot of people wanting him to go down because of that, but he really leveraged that heat and really made quite a name for himself. So, I mean, it's just amazing to see what a person can do, especially at such a young age too. Like, I like when fighters start off young and hot and aggressive. There's something about a 22-year-old, 23-year-old who just thinks they can take on the world. And it's very inspiring to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And his brashness and confidence, I think, was kind of disliked by a large percentage of the boxing public back then that really didn't like the idea of let's be honest, a young black, a 22-year-old getting out there in front of the cameras and talking about how fast he is and how beautiful he is and how he's going to essentially do what he ended up doing to people and knocking them out in the ring. It was very unique for its time. And it's probably difficult for us to realize it now because a lot of kids at young fighters are doing it. But back then it was definitely something to be marveled at, I think. And it was obviously a huge upset. One of the things I've learned from movies and stuff about this was that Liston was like tied to the mob, and he was like, there's a lot of obviously underworld influence in boxing at that time. And but yeah, and then obviously there was the rematch that was controversial too. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, man. This was definitely one of the biggest upsets in boxing history. I remember watching documentaries about Ali's life and stuff, and hearing the boxing writers and former fighters saying how he was going to get absolutely destroyed by Liston. And Ali, as cocky as can be, was telling them all he's going to do this, do that, and he came through on his word, man. I do know that there was something in they slipped on Liston's gloves to get in Ali's eyes.
Yeah.
I don't know if that had anything to do with what you mentioned, Maestro, about mob ties, something like that, But yeah, man, this is one hell of an upset, and this is really what put Cassius Clay at the time, later to be Muhammad Ali, on the map. And I tell you this, man, you guys are lucky I wasn't around in the 60s because I might have predicted this upset too.
Yeah, apparently my dad did, and like took a whooping at school from his teacher who he had like bet money against. I think the best people to interview for a topic like this, honestly, would probably be our fathers or even grandfathers who were around at the time. But yeah, memorable moment. And I mean, the style of boxing has been mimicked, and his gift of gab and everything. You kind of, like I said earlier, see it in some of today's fighters. And definitely there's a reason they call him the greatest. And this is one of the greatest feats that he performed in the ring on this day, those decades ago. So yeah, moving on though, we've given Ali his due and his credit here. Let's talk about stuff that's happening in the game right now. And a lot of news came out today, and I know you'll have some things to say about this for sure, Joe. The Triller app, of all things, winning out of nowhere pretty much the bid to host the fight between George Kambosos Jr. and Teofimo Lopez Jr. They bid $6 million, outbidding Eddie Hearn, who put in a little more than $3 million, and Top Rank to put in a little bit more than $2 million. What are your thoughts, Joe?
Oh, I heard the Top Rank even put 2 million up. I thought they put a little bit under 2 million, but I could be wrong there. But this came out of nowhere. Obviously, this was the broadcaster and the distribution arm that put out Jones versus Tyson earlier in the year, and that was a huge pay-per-view that over exceeded expectations in a lot of people's minds. And I thought it would do well. I thought it would do about $1 million, but it ended up doing $1.5 million. So they know how to promote fights. They know how to get people's attention. And I'm hearing a lot of people say, "Oh, well, they overbid. They put up way too much money. Nobody knows who Kambosos is." But I think Teofimo Lopez really made a great introduction to the casual fan with that Lomachenko fight. And I think he's marketed himself well. He's been on a lot of podcasts. He's been on a lot of mainstream network shows, and he's been putting himself out there. And, he was on Mike Tyson's podcast. Mike Tyson's podcast is really, really big, and, he's been interviewed by, I think Akin Barak as well. So he's really putting himself out there. And I think that this is going to really be the litmus test to see if he can carry an event by himself without having a really popular dance partner, with all due respect to Kambosos. So time will tell. I'm kind of optimistic. I have a feeling that this fight will do better than a lot of people think. And I think, this Triller will really work hard to put Teofimo Lopez out there. And this just goes to show that there's a lot of competition in the sport of boxing. So fighters who are coming up in the game, fighters who have that potential to become superstars, they really got to think twice before they sign these long-term deals with these promoters, and maybe sign like a 1 or 2 fight deal at a time, just so they don't lock themselves down, because there's so much competition out there. There's so many outlets, and there's so many distribution arms out there. There's so many broadcasters out there. So there's a lot of competition. And when there's a lot of competition, then that's good for the fighter, really, because he can just go to the highest bidder, as Teofimo Lopez did right here. So we'll see how this all plays out. Because, again, he's getting a big guarantee in, from what I'm hearing, there's going to be some pay-per-view revenue that he could also get as well. Whereas the Top Rank situation, I think they were going to probably just put that on ESPN, and there would have been no back-end money for him. So this was really a great move financially for him. And at first I was a little skeptical of this move, but then, it played out well for him. So he stood firm, and he held his ground, and he ended up coming up, really, really on the big end of this. So we'll just have to, sit tight and see how this plays out. But I know I'm definitely going to be watching the fight. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. Just a reminder, this is the Leave It in the Ring roundtable here with Joe Habib, G Funky, Chicano Prophet. I'm Maestro Amilcar. And right now we're talking the news. We're talking about the news that came out today. Teofimo Lopez is going to be fighting on Thrillers, what it looks like. G Funky, were you excited when you heard this? What were your thoughts?
My thoughts were a little bit like most people. Was thinking, wow, that's a good amount of money for this fight. And but I do want to give credit to Teofimo for putting himself out there and knowing his worth. We know Bob Arum, the way he plays, with his fighters. I shouldn't really say play, because you know what? He's, that's his company. It's his money. He built it. And, he wants to run the business the way he wants to run his business, and that's on him, But apparently they believe that this could be a big fight. I'm not sure who else is going to be fighting on the undercard. I'm hearing some rumblings of a possibly Tyson Holyfield 3. We know Holyfield's talked about that recently, about how that fight is close to being done. That would be a big card. But, the thing I want to talk about is this, man. Teofimo, for some reason, has got a lot of people out there that just don't like him. And I honestly don't understand it. I mean, the kid has done tremendous things in his career already in just 16 fights. He's become, arguably the undisputed champion at 135 pounds, beating one of the best guys who was ranked highly in the pound-for-pound list in Lomachenko. So I honestly don't understand where the hate is coming from. People are already complaining about how it's going to be on pay-per-view and they're not going to pay for it. Look, that's fine. You want to pay. Nobody's forcing you to pay for anything, But I can tell you this, man, as someone who does buy a lot of pay-per-views like myself, and I bought every single pay-per-view last year. I know it was kind of a crazy year, but I did buy every pay-per-view last year. I didn't stream none of them. I bought them all. So you can't call G-Funk a hater on any fighter out there or any promotional company. I don't play that kind of game when it comes to boxing, man. This boxing thing is easy when you're not a fanboy of fighters or promotional companies. I want what's best for the sport. And when fights are on, I got to see them because I love the sport. So I'm going to pay the $50 to see this. And that's a good deal considering what pay-per-view's been at lately. I mean, we're talking $80 to watch the shit in HD. $50, that's nothing.
It's even more than that in New York. It's even more than that in New York. And I think you hit the nail right on the head there, G Funky. I think Triller's shown that they'll probably enter this at the $50 price point, which I think is a lot more reasonable than what we both paid for for instance, the Charlo pay-per-view. And I thought that was a good pay-per-view, the Charlo pay-per-view, but was I happy about spending about $90 on it? Absolutely not. So, yeah, I mean, but I'll get into a little bit more of my thoughts on my reaction to the news. But what were your thoughts, Chicano?
Well, I thought it was an interesting move. Up until the Tyson Jones fight, I didn't even really know what Triller was. And I'm in my 30s and I really didn't know. So this app is kind of new to me still. I did think the production of the Tyson Jones fight was not that bad. In fact, there were some aspects of it that were kind of refreshing. It felt kind of new in a way. So I'm interested to see what they can do if they have some permanent plans in boxing. And I think jumping on this is a good move. Teofimo Jr. is a charismatic guy. And I think that, he could possibly appeal to the youth. And hardcores like ourselves and even casual fans are starting to know who he is. So they might follow him. And in the future, I think everything is going digital eventually. So this transition from pay-per-view to digital, it's just bound to happen, in my opinion. I know that they lose some revenue by not getting some of those old school buyers, but this is just one of the things that can happen. And this is great. Yeah. That you see that they have rappers, they have lots of artists. I'll be very interested to see what the production looks like. On top of that too, I thought their production was a little bit better in certain ways than DAZN. Like with DAZN, I think that they're still doing an amateur hour production. And so I think there is room for competition for a digital platform to come in and give DAZN a run for its money.
Yeah, I agree. I actually was really impressed by the production quality that I saw when the Tyson fight took place, obviously against Roy Jones Jr. Maybe it's because I had super low expectations, but they actually impressed me, Triller. And they obviously they had a big lineup of celebrities and rap stars, and they had a lot of big names show up to either commentate on it. I think Israel Adesanya was part of the broadcast team that night, along with Snoop Dogg, obviously, and a bunch of other people were performing and stuff. In terms of my reaction to the news, honestly, I was very happy for Teofimo Lopez. All right. Last week, Bob Arum essentially gone on a podcast and had said that the fight wasn't worth very much. He wasn't going to pay very much because of the quality of the opponent. And yeah, I thought that he proved that, yeah, he's a star. People actually want him. And, he's got a really high purse bid in the $6 million. So congrats to him. Thoughts, G Funky, finally on Teofimo possibly fighting off of ESPN for the first time, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool. This could change the game for a lot of young fighters. Him going over there and getting that kind of money. Obviously we have to see how well Thriller does and how well the pay-per-view does. But I expect them to put some names on this undercard. They just have to, I think. And I expect them to do it. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't really too excited about all the rappers in between with the Roy Jones and Tyson pay-per-view. Nothing against hip hop. I love hip hop, but I just can't listen to the new stuff, man. It's just not for me. They put a couple of older artists on there. That might interest me more, but I know they want to get the young crowd excited and stuff like that. So, they got to do what they got to do to get those eyes on to watch their stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that they'll have, you know, some names on the undercard, some rappers there again. Who knows if Snoop Dogg's going to be on the mic calling the fight again? But I'm excited for the young kid, man, and I'm proud of him. I'm glad he's getting his money, and you know, I keep the same energy for all these fighters. I always say, if these guys can get the money, get it, man, because this is not a game. What they do for a living, man. This is definitely not a game. You know, you can get hurt, you can die. You know, we've seen it before, man. So these guys need to get their money while they can, and I'm glad he did.
Yeah, and prior to the fight, we were talking about this backstage earlier, but Arum was essentially accusing Teo of like colluding with Kambosos, you know, to get to maximize their pay. And I was essentially saying that's what every fighter should do. I mean, that's why the NBA players have a union. That's why me as a teacher has a union. Like, aren't you supposed to maximize, right, Chifa? Aren't you supposed to maximize your income as a worker?
I mean, I was just going to say that the collusion, I say, what are we talking about? LeBron James here? He's the one colluding with all these guys in the offseason, getting all these all-stars to come play with him and sign into to the same managers and agents and stuff, you know? So, yeah, if they do it, why not, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys think it does big business? Do you think it is going to be a financial success for Triller, or is it more like a marketing play, which is what Bob Arum says he thinks it is? What are your thoughts, Joe?
I just have to look back at that Tyson Jones fight, because a lot of people were kind of crapping all over it before it took place. They were saying it was no, they weren't going to buy it. It's a waste of time. And look what it did. So every time, you know, people tend to crap on these pay-per-views, they over exceed the expectations of the public. So I think this will do pretty good. I'm impressed with Triller. I really am. I'm really impressed with them. I think they do a great job in promotion, and I think that they have their finger on the pulse of the young generation, and I think that's what this sport needs to really go to the next level. And ironically enough, I was at the gym the other day. I had my Teofimo Lopez shirt on, and there was a young kid working there. And he couldn't have been more than 20 years old. And he come up to me and he says, "Hey, you watch boxing?" He goes, "Did you see that fight with Teofimo Lopez and Vasily Lomachenko? You know, did you see the fight with Valdez, you know, this past weekend?" I said, "Yeah." So this was a young kid talking about boxing. So I think that not only, you know, television, but you have social media. With Ryan Garcia, he's proved that you know, he can put himself out there and promote himself without having the promoter do the job. He can do the job himself and do better than Oscar De La Hoya has done. And you know, also you go on YouTube, and these guys are doing interviews. You see them having their own YouTube channels now, the fighters, and they're kind of showing you a day in the life of, like Ryan Garcia has done that. So I think the fighters are really starting to take their career in their own hands. And I think an outlet like Triller understands that. And they're not just looking at the fighter as an athlete. They're looking at the fighter as an entertainer, as someone who can, you know, reach out to these young kids and be a role model, be someone that these kids can look at and say, wow, you know, not just be that stereotypical dumb fighter, be a businessman, show the kids that, you know, it's not all about just the sport itself. It's about carrying yourself like a man and being a great champion and being a smart person and doing the right thing, not only inside the ring, but outside the ring. So I'm very optimistic about it. I think it could do very well.
Yeah, I agree with you. My co-host on Monday, Dave Duenas, doesn't even think that ESPN's has like a long-term plan to stay in boxing. I don't know either way about that, but the fact that you've got another group coming in here and possibly disrupting the market a little bit is a good thing. Yeah, Joe?
Well, Dave may be right about that, because ESPN always has one foot out the door when it comes to boxing. They dip in and out. They haven't shown a consistency. They had that long run when they had that Top Rank series back when Al Bernstein was the commentator. And then they dipped, they ducked out again for a while. and then they just recently came back a couple of years ago. They seem to be more committed to MMA. So Dave made a great point there, and he could very well be right in his assessment.
Yeah, and the rumors that I've heard, and I'm sure you've all heard them too, Chicano and everyone else, is that Fox is leaving the game after this year in terms of not renewing its contract with the PBC.
Wow.
So
that's a big blow.
Yeah, apparently it wasn't on like their financial plan that they released to like their shareholders for like next year. So Thriller coming in, or is it Triller? It's Triller, right?
It's Triller. It's Triller. Yeah.
No H. It is a good thing. And what's interesting to me though too is that even when he's giving up 20% of his purse, Teo's still making way more than he would have made had one of the other purse bids gone through. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Dude, $6 million is a huge bid.
Oh, so he's giving Bob Arum 20%?
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't agree with it.
He should only be giving him 10%, but
yeah, I was going back and forth with a guy on Twitter about it who's a huge fan of Bob Arum. I don't know why, but he is. And he's like, gets excited over Bob Arum making money and excited over Teo not making money. But
this is the new.
I just don't get it.
This is the new era of boxing fans where they're fans of the promoters more so than the fighters.
Absolutely.
It's ridiculous, isn't it? Like I don't ever recall speaking with people about promotional companies when it came to boxing. Like it just blows my mind, really.
Like Eddie Hearn is a superstar over in the UK. They love him.
Yeah, and then you've got guys that root for Queensberry only and guys that root for Matchroom only. It's insane. And we've seen it here with the PBC versus Top Rank, and it's getting to like huge proportions. Thoughts, Chicano?
Well, you're right. I mean, to me, if we're boxing fans, we should just be happy about seeing the best fight the best. That's what we should all want. I do think it's good to see promoters get out there and promote and to charm the public. Somebody like Eddie Hearn, he knows how to go out and promote his ass off. He'll sell anything. And it's impressive seeing him talk about fight after fight after fight, do interviews after interviews after interviews. I don't think people are doing it like that so much anymore. I think Oscar, he has the clout to go on ESPN and talk about a fight that's coming up. And we all know who he is, but he's not out there pounding the pavement. And Bob Arum, well, he'll just tell you like it is, but he's old and grumpy. He's not out there actively promoting. So fighters have to promote themselves these days, but it's also great to see a promoter come out and actually promote. PBC, I mean, they don't really, it's just kind of like a void. Like, the fights are announced and they have like their little show and a couple of spokespersons. Like nobody really speaks for the PBC. So it's interesting to see the dynamics. And I'll be curious to see what happens with Triller if they'll push their boxers forward to do most of the promoting. And somebody like Teofimo, I think, would do a very good job. I don't know much about Kambosos' personality, but it'll be interesting to see if they have any faces for that dynamic as well.
Yeah, I agree. And what I find interesting too with all of this is the like hopping from network to network and whether that will become something that we see in the future. And especially if it's something that Triller ends up doing, kind of poaching people away and kind of just what would be considered overpaying. I don't know if it's overpaying, if it makes business sense for them, but bidding on these fights, because it's not often that you see fights go to purse bid.
Yeah. Not very often at all. So,
yeah, I want to touch on something that Beeb said, man, and I think he made a tremendous point. Getting to the youth, I really think that's the way we got to get. That's one of the ways we can get boxing back to where it used to be. Getting more of the kids involved, the teenagers, and I cannot believe I heard that Joe Habib was out at the gym wearing a Teofimo Lopez shirt. Nobody knew who you were, man. This is crazy, man. Somebody gotta know who the Beeb is from YouTube. You've been out there too long, man. They should have been like, "There's Beeb. I'm gonna go talk to him. He knows boxing. All right, I know this guy from YouTube."
Well, they used to know me at LA Fitness, but they don't know me at Planet Fitness. There's a lot of yuppies over there. A lot of yuppies.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with Triller. I think it's interesting news. I'm actually happy because I think, yes, we gotta obviously be fans of the sport, but I also think that as fans of the sport, you also have to kind of root for the fighters and root for the fighters getting paid. I mean, they're the ones putting themselves on the line. So I'm quite happy with that. Just a reminder, phone lines are open. All right, we're going to be taking calls tonight. I actually have a call coming in right now. Area code 559. Just call it back, please, because I was a little distracted when you called in and I just missed it. But yeah, please do call back if you can. So moving on, we've got a few things to talk about tonight, but one thing that we hadn't discussed talking about that I'd like your opinion on, sticking kind of with the promoters and the kind of thing that's gone on between rivals and stuff here in the United States and elsewhere. What are your thoughts, and what kind of sense does it make to you for the Dirrell fight, the PBC fight, to be taking place on the same day and essentially at the same time as the Canelo fight this Saturday? What are your thoughts, Chicano?
Well, I've liked Andre Dirrell. I've been following him since before, like I believe it was like that super middleweight tournament back in the day with Andre Ward. And so, I've been following him for a long time, but he's not really somebody that I look forward to seeing as far as somebody who can make noise in his divisions anymore. And so as far as them putting that fight on the same weekend as the Canelo fight, I think you're just going to appeal to two different people, the people who enjoy boxing and have access to the zone, who are already probably subscribed to the zone. We're going to go watch the Canelo fight. If you're a casual and there's nothing else on and you might not be aware that there's a Canelo fight, I could see you possibly tuning into the Dirrell fight. But we don't really know where Dirrell's going to go after this. I could see him possibly doing something interesting after, maybe kind of being like a step up for somebody else, but his career is kind of on the downside. If you want something that's up and coming and modern and people who are continually achieving dominance in their division, the only thing you could do is watch the Canelo fight this weekend.
Yeah, I think everyone will, but personally, I would have liked it to be at worst like a lead-in, like that takes place earlier on. I've just never understood the counter-programming phenomenon in boxing, and it happened last weekend as well. I'm sure you ended up watching the Broner fight too, right, Joe? But did you watch it live?
No, did not watch the Broner fight live.
Right. So
same for me. That was DVR all the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I just do not understand that counter programming. But we do have a caller. Caller, you're on the line right now. Speaking to Leaving in the Ring Roundtable, area code 559. Who is this?
Saludos. This is A-Rod y Boxeo.
Oh, A-Rod. Saludos, mi amigo. ¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, camarada. I just want to touch on the last subject that you guys had about the collision with them putting together the Teofimo fight with Mike Tyson and Holyfield. I think it will do pretty good because every single casual person that I've ever talked boxing with and they just signed me off, they bought that Mike Tyson fight with Roy Jones Jr. You know what I mean? And it might give a little bit more airtime to these to Teofimo and then give the casuals great performance to be able to come back to boxing. So it might help out a lot.
Yeah. That makes sense. I agree with you. Anybody else, panel?
I agree with him. I think he's right.
Yeah, A-Rod's right on the money, man.
Yeah, absolutely. A-Rod usually is. And I see people always talk about like boxing going through struggles and boxing kind of being a dead sport or being dead. It's like Nas with hip hop is dead. Boxing's going to survive. Boxing's like that cockroach after the nuclear attack. And the reason it's going to be there is because of guys like us. So, Triller entering the game's good. The zone is here. It's great. And I know we'll get into this later, but I'm happy about generally the state of the game and I'm excited about this Saturday. Any other thoughts, A-Rod?
I think if they're going to bring on a rapper, they should bring on somebody that knows boxing. And for any rapper that I know that knows boxing, that falls to LL Cool J, they should bring somebody on like that knows a little bit about the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good one.
His performance as announcer, no matter.
Right. No, LL's
Snoop Dogg was not good. I'm sorry. I mean, I know a lot of people found him entertaining, but it was not good to me, man. I'm sorry.
No, I don't know what the panel thought about it, but when he was like clowning Nate Robinson for essentially being unconscious and not moving, I thought that it was a little bit low myself.
Poor
Even
taste.
even Redman knows a lot about boxing. I heard him talk about boxing a lot too.
Yeah,
You know who I wouldn't mind them bringing on from a celebrity point of view? Rosie Perez, man. She seems to know quite a bit about boxing. She's always at the fights. She always talks about boxing. She's always been interested in it, man. I know her voice might be a little annoying to some people, but at least she kind of knows the sport, you know, at least more than Snoop Dogg.
facts, and she's in a really good show. A side note here called what's it called? It's the Flight Attendant, I think it's called. I watched it with my wife. It was pretty good. The problem though with that and the names that we're giving out, like, look, LL Cool J came out when I was like in kindergarten. I don't even know if I was that old yet. And I think Mama Said Knock You Out is probably the greatest boxing song of all time, personally. I even have it higher than like the Rocky theme, but that's just me. The problem is, as Joe said earlier, they're going for a younger demographic. I don't know if Redman and LL Cool J and Rosie Perez are going to hit that target. And I don't know. The problem is that probably a lot of these younger heads in the game don't really have the kind of knowledge we'd expect of commentators. What are your thoughts, Chicano?
Well, you know, I think that novel commentary will lose its luster after a little while. Like I do like hearing people who know what they're talking about. And even when I hear new commentary, like people that I'm not familiar with speaking and they start rubbing me the wrong way, it becomes like a constant annoyance. And so with Triller, you know, I think they have a real opportunity to kind of cycle some people in and out and see what works. I agree with you. Snoop Dogg, with both of you kind of in a way. I thought the way he spoke was kind of tasteless as far as Robinson being on the ground, and he was kind of funny, but I mean, he wasn't breaking it down. It was kind of witty, but I think that would lose its novelty after a little while. So they have a real opportunity to think about if they really want to get into the boxing game more, of really getting some really qualified people right there in that booth calling it. And there's a lot of people to choose from. I mean, I would prefer to even see perhaps Jim Lampley come back. I thought he was great for what he did at the time and for as consistent as he was. So I think there's a lot of ideas that they could explore, and I'm curious to see what they do.
I bet you they bring Roy Jones back as a commentator.
He was great. Yeah.
Yeah, Roy's a good commentator.
Yeah, Roy was
Absolutely.
good. Yeah, that's a good idea, Joe. I didn't think about that, but yeah, he's got the
mean,
experience too. So
Teddy Atlas has been snooping around, but they won't even talk to him.
There you go.
Man. Let's ask the chat:
go.
Teddy Atlas or Rosie Perez?
They should have Joe Habib and Teddy Atlas in the same one arguing back and forth about the whole fight.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
I would pay big money for a Joe Habib versus Teddy Atlas debate on pay-per-view, but maybe that's just me.
That would be classic, wouldn't it?
Well, I got my money.
Yeah. So
all right, then, guys. Thank you for having me on.
Before you go, though, A-Rod, what are your thoughts about this weekend? While we have you on the line, and the what are your thoughts essentially on the Canelo fight? You excited about it?
Canelo, I'm not too excited about it because I know you just got it in the bag already. A lot of people are talking about that. Yildirim might have the upper hand because he was a sparring partner and all of that. This is 2 years ago. So a lot of things could happen in 2 years, and on both sides, as a matter of fact. But Canelo's too skilled. I see Canelo catching him with the uppercut that Eubanks caught him with, the same right one. I'm gonna call it right now. That way it's in the books, and I don't see it going that far. I'll give him credit and give him at least 7 rounds, and he will make it past there.
All right, so we got you in the book, 7 rounds, A-Rod. I booked it, and we'll see how that predicting goes.
Same round I picked, man. Round 7.
Well, it's happening in 7 then. If Defunct Shadama says it, if he says it, it's happening in 7.
I'm saying 3.
Wow. So 1 round longer than Rocky Field.
And that same
check the line on that, man.
That Eubanks got him with.
We're gonna set the over under at 6.5 rounds for that fight.
That's about right.
Ooh, man.
I know.
Have you seen the line on that beat?
This past weekend. Before the fight this past weekend, I went somebody's live and I told them that Valdez in 10th or 11th, he got in the 10th. So
Canelo's a bigger favorite than Tyson was over Buster Douglas. He's a 50-1 favorite.
Wow.
What's the over under, B? But do you have the line in front of you, or?
I don't even think they have an over under for this fight.
And that tells you all you need to know about Yildirim, you know.
Well, I said this on Monday on my show, and I'll say it again right here, and people can disagree with me if they want, but I consider Yildirim to be a better opponent than Truax, than Figgin Buns, or than Mike Lee. So that's kind of where I stand on him, and he's a mandatory. So Canelo did kind of have to fight him if he was going to keep that title.
Oh, I have nothing bad to say
Yes,
about
I agree.
Canelo having to fight him. I just think it's the sanctioning bodies, obviously, with their rankings. I don't know where, we could be critical of them all day about their rankings.
Yeah, I don't think we would be so pissed off about showcase fights if more people were fighting better fights more consistently. If Canelo's fighting 4 times a year and fulfills one mandatory, it really won't upset us that much. But I mean, if you see one guy like Truax against Caleb Plant, like that's going to upset you because, well, he hasn't really done anything for months and months. So I think that's something that we need to consider. Like I used to like seeing showcase fights every once in a while if a fighter's keeping busy, but things have changed. And now, people take like a yearly tune-up, and that's what pisses us off sometimes about not getting the fights that we want.
Absolutely. We got D Jefferson in the building from Speaking Mind Sports Talk. What up, B?
What's up, fellas? What's good, Joe?
What up?
Chicano Prophet, my friend. What's good? G Funky, my extra eye. What's good, fellas?
How you doing, D? Good to see you, man.
Yeah, man. I was snoozing. I woke up and like, oh damn, the fellas on, man.
That's what I did. You did what I did last week, baby.
Yeah, man. I'm an old man. That's the old age kicking in.
Oh yeah.
Just fall asleep anywhere.
Why don't I run it back for you, D, just to get your thoughts real quick on a couple things. First thing we discussed was it being the anniversary, obviously many decades later, of Ali knocking out Sonny Liston. Back then, Cassius Clay, obviously. And obviously well before any of our time, but we kind of discussed the legacy and impact of that win and of Muhammad Ali generally. Then we discussed the big news today, which was Teofimo Lopez, George Kambosos Jr. getting picked up for $6 million by Triller. And just our thoughts on kind of the Triller app in general and kind of what this means for the sport. What are your thoughts there, D?
I think it's beautiful, right? Look at Bob was trying to give him 1.2, right? So his cut out of that, the IBF, from what I was reading, they're 65-35 split, right? So Teofimo's cut out of that was $3,900,000. It's 3 times what Bob was trying to give him, which shows like Bob, hey, fuck you, Bob Arum, right? That shows you that right off the bat. He's supposed to give up like 20% of that money, right? I thought the promotional fee was 10%. Like
that's what I thought.
That's what we were saying earlier. That's what Joe was saying earlier.
What the hell? See, this tells you just how terrible Bob Arum is, man. It tells you right there. Like what happened to the fighters supposed to make the money, bro? Take it 10%. Okay, that's cool, but to take an extra 10%, what the fuck are you, the IRS? This is an early distribution penalty or something? Like, what's going on, fam? If you running the fight, you only get 10%. You're not even having to put work in, and you get an extra 10%. Like, bro, this is crazy. But even still, it's more money than he would have made with Bob, right? This whole thing with Bill Haney and him running around and. Well, if you were just going to offer him $4 million, that this is another thing. Say, well, you need to up the ante now, right? Because you can't pay him the same money to fight your son that he made to fight a mandatory, right? So it increased the kid's stock. This is something that he needed. I think it's good for him. Triller and that entertaining event they put on with Mike and everything. This could be something good for boxing too. You get integrated into the hip hop culture. That's a music culture that's worldwide right now, right? So, hey man, I think it's all good. Yeah, for sure. They had Snoop, so they had a good little show. I mean, this is good for Tio, man. This is good for his Star power is definitely good for his pockets. You know, congratulations to the kid for getting at least a better bag. I don't like the whole 20% thing. I think that's so silly, but it is what it is, man.
D, I
It's
love that
parasitic.
line. I love that line. The IRS, man. He doesn't. I think he's worse than the actual IRS. He's like the IRS from the WWF days. The Urban R. Shyster guy that used to come out with the suspenders, the briefcase. You know?
Oh man, I forgot about IRS, man. That was a good one.
Man.
Yeah.
Hey, he's IRS and Triller is Ted DiBiase, the $1 million man.
The $1 million man, yeah.
You know, I gotta be honest though, is something a little petty though. When he's like bragging about the fact that he just made $800,000 and in 5 minutes and essentially won't have to do anything. I mean, you're talking about a fucking fighter that's still under contract with you. You know, the idea that you'd be bragging about like taking money out of his pockets like that, I just don't get it. What are your thoughts, Chicano?
Well, I agree. Like the relationship between the Teofimo family and Arum is just very interesting. I mean, even after the Lomachenko-Teofimo fight, you know, we've heard Senior on here time and again talk about how, you know, everybody acted like it was a funeral when Lomachenko lost, you know, and they should be happy that Teofimo won because he's going to make this company a lot of money. And I have to agree, like looking at it, I mean, who do you want, the 22-year-old or the 32-year-old? Teofimo's young. He's charming. He speaks English. He has all the dynamics towards being a superstar, and he's accomplishing a lot of things at a very young age. And it's a shame to see their relationship develop like this. Even in the lead up, you know, we saw some quotes from Bob Arum before this, and we've seen some nasty quotes from Bob Arum after the purse bid. So I think it's a shame that this relationship is developing this way. And I just start thinking about history and how Bob Arum didn't really have very many big stars stay with him. Right now, Crawford is with him, but everybody else is left. And I think we're starting to see why. And, you know, Arum is starting to speak his mind more and more. And, you know, to talk to your fighters like this, to me, it just seems like it's the wrong thing to do. Even if they should be kind of polite to each other, you know, at least keeping appearances. Like, to me, this is very interesting. And it'll be interesting to see how things play out afterwards, because Arum made it sound like, well, we're not going to pay him any more than he's expecting. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Gorguruga over in the chat makes a point. He says, Canelo left the zone contract because they rejected the Yildirim fight. A few months later, Canelo versus Yildirim is on the zone. I've been saying it since he got out of that contract. Canelo's a boss. Like, he's making boss moves left, right, and center. And I got to tip my hat to him for what he's been able to do in terms of guiding his own career. And G-Funky, I'm still waiting to do a vid with you or a stream, bro, on Rigo and the way that Top Rank fucked him up and did all kind of fuckery when it came to his career. So hopefully we could get to that at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah, I look forward to that. I wanted to get Raw Boxing in on that too, because he probably know a lot more than both of us on that situation. But yeah, it's definitely a good video in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go. So I'll give you a chance, though, one more time in case you just forgot, D, to talk about the Ali win, because I know, having spoken to you before, that you're a fan of Ali.
Yeah, absolutely iconic, right? And then you think of like kids like Teo now, right, accomplishing at this young age, and like, so this is the kind of sort of one of those things like where Ali say you can do it, right? It doesn't matter. Don't let them tell you too young. Like, it's always those type of stories, and you hear these boxers talk about that, right? Oh well, they didn't say that. Or when somebody say, "Oh, he's too young," you hear people reference to that fight. That's how iconic that fight is. Well, Ali was Ali too young when he went in there with Liston? Everybody thought he was. Everybody, you know, they always use that fight as an example of how it can be done. Like, you can't count these kids out. You know, everybody counted Ali out, and he went in there and he beat Liston. So that fight's iconic, man. And, you know, I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but if not, you should. You should watch that fight. It's a fabulous fight, man. It's a fabulous fight. So, I didn't even realize that it was the anniversary on that fight or whatever.
Yeah, it happened today, back in 1964. I believe. Just want to shout out the people in the chat. We got Duval Grind, MMA, JC, always joining us. big fan of Ringside Reporter. I always notice he's got that logo there, Joe. I'm sure you know what the background of that story. We've got A-Rod with us as always. I Buy Houses is here with us. D. Hodges, Andre Rodriguez, who's out there in Portugal. It's got to be super late out there. Boxing King 22's with us. We got Puerto Rican Rum. Miguel Mondragon is with us. The GOAT. Ricky V is with us. Mr. Sinister. So we've got a full chat. And what I want to remind you guys of is that you can call in if you want to. All right, I'm going to put that number onto the screen so you can call in if you want. It's Bronx area code where I'm from, 718-618-4284. Once again, it's 718-618-4284 is the number. And we're here on the Leaving in the Ring Roundtable Thursdays. As always, we've got Ringside Reporter, Mr. Joe Habib, D. Jefferson, Speak Your Mind Sports Talk, Chicano Prophet, and the one and only G. Funk Stradamus from G Funky Boxing. All right, here with us as always. Great to have you guys here on the panel and filling in for D-Style here and having a really good time. So here we go. The last thing I want to talk about this is the beef, and I've kind of enjoyed watching it from afar between Arum and Eddie Hearn. I'm probably not the only one who can turn on an Eddie Hearn interview and just spend my morning drinking my coffee or whatever it is, just watching him. I find him very entertaining, and I find it very entertaining when he goes at Bob and makes the kind of jokes he usually does about him and his age and the way he speaks and stuff. But Arum's essentially saying now that he's really upset about the fact that Matchroom Sport and Eddie Hearn put in a bid on this fight and has threatened to now outbid Eddie Hearn in the future. Well, what are your thoughts on that, Joe Habib? Is that something you see happening, or is that just bluster?
Once again, you said earlier, how many fights actually do go to purse bids? So it's not like he's going to have a million opportunities to outbid Eddie Hearn. And they're in the process of working together to make the biggest fight in boxing. So again, what's the point? I think Bob, he has no filter. He just blurts things out. And then I think when he goes home and thinks about what he just said, he probably says to himself, I probably shouldn't have said that. So at the end of the day, it's just all Bob just bloviating. And that's Bob being Bob. You know, that's just who he is. On one hand, he goes out and says, well, Teofimo, I have no problem with him shopping himself around. If someone out there will pay more than I will pay, then all the power to them. So now all of a sudden, why is he upset? I just don't get it. So basically, anyone else can outbid me except for Eddie Hearn. I don't get it. Is he saying to himself, well, you know, Eddie and we're doing a lot of fights together. Like we should be working together, not against each other. I just don't get it. You know, so one day you say one thing, like yesterday I was lying. Today I'm telling the truth. One day you say one thing and another day you say another. The guy is he's just very volatile and he's very erratic. So you can't really take what he says too seriously.
What do you think there, D?
I think Bob Arum's a kooky old bastard. His days are numbered in this game. No, look, man. You know, when you lose control, when you're a guy that's quite controlling, right? And somebody does something to snatch away some of your control. You know, want to call it ego, call it what you want. Like Bob, you remember, like, let's not forget Bob Arum and Don King set the standard for making money off of fighters, right? So he's used to this kind of stuff. So when you want to pay a guy 1.2 and then he can sort of look at it like, oh, you want to bail him out, Eddie? You know what I'm trying to do here. You want to come and put a bid in and bail him out, right? It could be something like that. I don't know. It's like you take the control away. Teofimo took the control back from Bob. He said, no, look, you try to do this to me with the Lomachenko fight, right? Remember, he tried to give him 1.2 then, and Teofimo put his foot down there and said, "Come on, man, you're gonna give me more money than that to fight Loma. This is the biggest guy. You gonna give me that?" And then he tried to turn around and do it to him again. So he puts his foot down again, and to know that Eddie was involved in the kid putting his foot down, saying, "I want more money," maybe that kind of rubbed Bob the wrong way. But so what? Stop being so cheap and open up that checkbook, old man. Then you wouldn't have these issues, right? You open that checkbook up, it wouldn't have went to purse bid. So, I mean, it is what it is. It is.
I vaguely remember him saying that, like, if Teo didn't take the fight with Lomachenko, like, he was gonna give it to Puerto Rican dude, man. It's late in the game for me right now.
Verdejo?
Yeah, Verdejos. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. I do remember
absolutely.
stuff about that. Yeah, Felix Verdejo. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So there you go. Any thoughts on that, Chicano?
Well, you know, I have to say that I agree with D. I think that Bob Arum is being a bit cheap. And, you know, I discussed a little bit earlier about the way Bob Arum talks. And, you know, I just hear him say these little snide things. And you know what? It's kind of starting to become a little bit endearing for me to listen to him. I think it's kind of like this old man just piping off. But in the end, business is business, and he's a businessman. And I think that they're going to brush this stuff aside once the quotes are done. And, you know, if we're being honest, like the Teofimo Kambosos fight, it's not that big of a fight. I mean, if he loses this one, I mean, he still has a first option on really big fights and being really involved in the next fights, which will probably be more important, especially considering the fact that, you know, he could end up facing Haney at 135 or going up to face another top ranked fighter to go undisputed at 140. So, I mean, the future is very bright for both of them. They really should work on trying to get on the same page, in my opinion.
Well, the relationship is very strained. Teofimo Sr. says Bob Arum hates him. After the fight, he looked over at Bob Arum when Teofimo just finished beating Lomachenko, and he said, "See, I told you." And he said that Bob Arum gave him the finger. So he basically said "fuck you" to him. So, you know, Teofimo Sr., when we were interviewing him, he was talking about Bob Arum, and he says Bob Arum doesn't like me. You know, so the relationship is definitely strained.
I think you hit a great point too, Chicano. Bob Arum's been in this game a long time, and he has to understand business is business, and this is business. You know, you don't want to pay a guy for a fight that's ordered; it's going to go to purse bid, and that's just the way it works, man. So it's just sour grapes from this guy, I think, man. But he should understand that more than anybody. You know, nothing personal, it's business. You know,
this turned out to be a real boss move for Teo, man. I think
Absolutely.
this is a huge win for Teo. He's sending a message. It's like, you don't pay me, somebody else will.
Absolutely.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And
we've got sorry, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say we've got I'll get right back to you, D. I just want to tell Haplotype, who's on hold, that we'll get to him right away. Go ahead, D.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, with Bob Arum, look, guys, history repeats itself, right? You had like the Floyds and the Oscars and the Pacquiao and the Mikeys, and bro, they all left you. They all left you for a reason. You get these guys to this star power, and you don't want to share the pie. Like, come on, man, you make money off of these guys early. Don't act like you don't. As they coming up and before they get that big name with them, you're getting paid off of them early. So once they blow up, man, let these guys get the money that they deserve. You know, like this 10% thing is another example. Like, bro, why you taking the extra 10%? Why you doing that? It's like taking more money for less work. Your network,
and then gloating about it.
Right.
And then gloating about it. And it's like a young kid who's taking punches in the face for a living, and you're gloating about the fact that you're taking food off his table. I just don't get it.
400, 500 grand for what, bro? Like, what the hell?
800 grand.
Well, I meant like an extra 4 or 5. You know,
right. You're right.
Like,
big names have walked away from him, man. I mean, De La Hoya, Floyd, Pacquiao, Mikey Garcia. I mean, jeez, man.
Look, Crawford's ready to walk. Crawford's ready to walk from him right now. Yep. Crawford, like,
let's get Haplotype in on the conversation. Area code 323. That's you, right, Haplotype?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good to be on with all you guys. Thanks for having me on.
What's going on, Haplo?
I'm mad at B though for trying to put that Mike Tyson Buster Douglas curse on this Canelo Yildirim fight. Not cool.
Yapple
Don't bring
dapple.
that up. We don't want to. I want that Billy Joe Saunders. I want the undisputed. And also, I think it was D who said Bob Arum and Don King were the guys who invented how to get like money off of fighters for fighting. But I really have to give that credit to Tex Rickard, who came way before them. But yeah, piggybacking off of what D was just saying, I think that honestly, I think Bob Arum has some kind of weird formula, bro, for how he runs his business. He tends to build guys up to the point of like superstardom, but then once they get there, he doesn't want to pay them the amount that they're able to get from the open market. And this is just the latest example of that. I mean, he's done it so many times over the years, and D was just outlining a few of the people that he did it with. I think he also did it with Tommy Hearns a little bit too.
Mikey Garcia too. Mikey Garcia, you could add him in.
He said Mikey Garcia, I think.
Yeah, I did.
Cotto.
You mentioned Mikey.
Yes.
Yeah, Cotto, Pacquiao, even Pacquiao. There are some guys like he'll keep like one guy at a time. That's like he'll pay that guy pretty well. And Pacquiao is probably a good example of that. Like Pacquiao was making pretty decent money when he was on top, the top rank. Bradley he kept, and Crawford he seems to want to keep, but that's all going to come down to what he can get done for Crawford and how far is he willing to go for Crawford. I think one thing that's keeping Crawford there is that clause that he has where he gets $1 million every year that he doesn't get the fight he won. So I mean, if you're getting $1 million for basically getting ducked, then why leave? But anyway, I just wanted to come on and chop it up with you guys, say hello, and lend my support to everybody, and say hello to everybody in the chat and on the panel.
Thank you,
Good stuff, Haplo. Good stuff, Haplo, man.
All right, brother.
Later, Haplo.
Just a quick note here for people in the chat that want to call in. Just drop your area code in the chat. Let us know you're calling in, and then I'll look out for you. I've got like 3 things in front of me in terms of screens and stuff, so I don't want to miss your calls. I know we got No Pow who wants to call in. So No Pow, you can go right ahead and call in now because the line's open.
Yeah, I'll leave it open for No Pow. Salute, guys.
Have a good one,
Haplo.
Later.
Yeah, I just think it's an interesting phenomenon, what he just said. It's like he clearly does have a formula that involves, not being financially involved or putting a lot at stake financially for a lot of these bigger fights. Maybe that's why he's such a shrewd businessman. It's I guess he's figured out a way to shore up his bottom line. What I've always found interesting about Arum, though, myself, is just his willingness to literally run over his fighters at the drop of a hat and like bad talk them in public. And I just don't get that. We've got No Pow joining us now. No Pow, you here with us? You're live on Leaving in the Ring, the round table. Go ahead.
Hey, what up, everybody? Hey, I just wanted to share one thing real quick. I'm not sure if you guys were on Twitter, but I actually saw that, and I'm not sure if it's true, but I did see a couple sources that said that Bob Arum actually said that for like $800K, Teofimo could buy himself out of his contract. And you know what? I think that was just cap because, even at $800K, I might be in the market to help him buy himself out of the out of his contract, because that's anybody could, that's money that Teofimo probably has laying around right there. I'm not sure if you guys saw that.
I did see that on Twitter.
I didn't see that, but I believe you.
I didn't see
Yeah,
that, but
so
I would
don't-
think
but I
that
don't-
would be a cheap price, though.
I don't think that, I don't think that's true, though, what I'm saying. Bob might have said that, but I don't think he'll let him buy himself out of his contract for $800K. I think that's way too low. He's just saying that because he's salty and he's making it sound like, Teofimo ain't worth that much. And, we already know what time it is with Bob Arum. Basically, him losing that purse bid was just a blow to his old ass ego. 85 years old, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Still tripping about, little stuff like that. He probably should just give it a rest, man.
How much did Floyd buy himself out of his contract for? It was like six figures, wasn't it?
No, I think it was around the same amount. I think it was that dude Jay Prince that bought him, helped him get out of the contract or something like that.
Yeah, shout out.
It wasn't a lot.
$750,000 he paid to get out of his contract.
There you go. That's what I thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a big time business move right there.
But he was
that was about 20 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, so you got to calculate for inflation. So let's call it like 1.2 mil, maybe. I don't know.
Nah, I'd say something like 3 or 4 mil.
It's 40,
you're probably right.
7.8. So it's like 47.8. So it would be like 2.2.
Jesus, I was way off.
3 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
The way I try to calculate inflation is I look at the price of gold basically and how much you can buy for an ounce, and it's about that much. Probably gold was cheap as heck back then,
Yeah.
Anyways,
right
that's all I
that.
had to say about Car. Thank you, man, for picking up the call.
Before you go, no pal. I know you got thoughts on this Saturday's fight. What do you think about
We can't
some of the
let you
shade?
go. No,
The
Paul, we can't let
shade.
you go without asking about Canelo, man. Come on, bro.
Absolutely.
That's right. It's fight week, baby.
I don't know, man.
I
think
go ahead.
Yildirim might pull off the upset, bro. I don't know, man.
You're breaking my heart, man.
Wow.
I don't know, man. Anything can happen, bro. I mean, I'm hoping, it goes the distance. Yildirim don't get hurt too bad. Something like that.
I think he's going to carry him some rounds, man. I don't think he wants to get him out of there too quickly. He understands that people aren't too excited for this fight. It's a mandatory, and so I think he's gonna, he's gonna let him, survive a few rounds. I'm saying 7, man. He's out of there. That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying 4.
Yeah. I actually saw an interview the other day, man, that was hella funny. ESPN, them dudes on the Spanish channel always trying to bring up Triple G, and Canelo actually told him, "What you guys seem like you got Triple G's name tattooed on your butt or something, man. You guys keep bringing him up. The dude's hella old, and you guys just keep bringing him up. I got way better opponents to fight than him, It was pretty funny.
I'm still looking for someone to debate me on Triple G being overrated. So man,
people don't want to touch that one anymore, bro.
Anybody who wants to smoke can come get it. You could come on my channel, or I could go on yours.
Here's the problem.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Here's the problem with the word overrated. People don't understand when you say someone's overrated, it doesn't mean that you're saying they're not good.
Absolutely, that's what I'm saying.
That's what people don't understand.
I'm talking about a guy that motherfuckers are saying has 21 legit fucking title defenses. That's bullshit.
He's not a better middleweight than Bernard Hopkins. He's not a better middleweight than Marvin Hagler. He's just
Joe, I'm gonna go beyond that. I'm gonna say
I don't even think he's a better middleweight than Canelo Alvarez.
Of course he's not. I'm saying he's not a better middleweight.
Come on, Beef.
I'm saying he's not a middleweight than Kelly Pavlik or Jermaine Taylor. And people who want to debate it can come at me. I'm open.
The reason why I say that is because Canelo Alvarez really didn't stay long at middleweight. That's why I'm saying that. I'm not saying Canelo Alvarez is a better fighter, but I'm saying because he hasn't fought so much at middleweight. But even still, I still think he's a better middleweight. I mean, how many fights has Canelo actually had at middleweight? Really, not that many compared to Triple G.
I still consider him a middleweight, though. I don't know why. I mean, I think back in the day there wasn't. What was the true weight class? 168 or 160? Because we didn't have so many weight classes.
No, it was 160.
160.
was
Yeah,
always
it was always
160.
160.
It was always
They
160.
added 154 and 168 later on as
Yeah.
kind of bridge your weights, for lack of a better word.
Hey, no, Paul, I got to ask you one question,
okay.
man. What kind of tequila you sipping for this fight Saturday, man? I need to know.
Oh man, I got a bottle of Centenario. It's like 15 years old, man.
Orale!
One shot out of it. That thing is good, man.
One
Yeah,
shot
I'm
puts
gonna
your
put
lights
some
out, huh?
pictures of it on Twitter. Watch.
Bro,
Oh, I need to see that. Yeah.
I might do a live stream on Saturday, and you could come on, No Pow, and we'll take a sip of that.
You be careful. He's gonna
Yeah,
be
no,
borracho.
for sure. I might even save you guys a bit, bro.
There you go. All right, thank you, No Pow.
I appreciate that.
Of
No
course,
problem.
fam.
You guys have a great one.
Triple G is most certainly overrated.
Absolutely.
Definitely overrated.
Absolutely. So London Left Hook was asking how to call in from England. And from what I remember from being out there, it's 00 and then the country code. So it would be 001 and then the number 718 618 4284. But you can also use Skype because I've got the Skype forwarding to that number. All right. So my Skype, I'm going to put it out there in the chat again. And hopefully you guys can see that and Skype in if you are overseas across the Atlantic, like our man London Left Hook. So moving on, guys. And this is something that I actually asked D-Style to talk about. And it came up, D-Style ran a poll, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, asking us what divisions we talk about on the roundtable. And 130 was getting a lot of votes, and 135 was getting a lot of votes, I believe. And I actually voted for 175 because I think 175 is a pretty interesting division. We didn't get to see that Joe Smith fight, obviously, a couple weeks ago, and I was pretty disappointed about that. But what are your thoughts? Let's start with you, Joe. What are your thoughts on the 175-pound division?
It's solid. I mean, you got Bivol, you got Beterbiev, you got Joe Smith. You still got Kovalev there. You got Lucas Brown. I think it's a solid division.
Zerto Ramirez.
Ramirez is coming up there. So I think it's a solid division.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a solid division. What do you think, D?
Well, I think it's guys there that can make the division solid if they freaking fight. You know, how long I've been waiting for the better Bevo thing, and you see that the Vlasov and Joe Smith thing fall off, and I just want to see these guys fight. Like any other division, to tell you the truth, man, it's not interesting unless these guys mix it up. It's one thing to have a bunch of guys in a division where you think, hey, he's good, but what good is it if they ain't fighting each other? You know what I mean? And they're not mixing it up. So I think it's a division that could be good if these guys engage into fighting each other.
I agree. And I mean, Gilberto Ramirez was brought up, and, John Pascal, for instance, is still hanging around. Sign me up for that fight if those two guys could fight. I have never seen John Pascal in a boring fight or a fight that's not exciting.
Well, I speak with Gilberto here and there, right? Chat with him a lot. They're potentially looking at a fight with Dimitri Bivol. So
that would be good.
Be really great for Gilberto. Good luck to him, because I think Dimitri Bivol's a dog, and I love Gilberto, but that's the type of challenge I want to see these guys take. Right, you get in there with a guy that can beat you, and Dimitri could definitely beat Gilberto. So shout out to Gilberto, because guys won't take fights like that. You know what I mean? Fights where you gotta work to get the win.
No, I mean, you got Beterbiev. Sign me up for Beterbiev, Joe Smith. That's a fight I would like to see. I'm also a big fan, funny enough, of Callum Johnson out there in the UK. I think he's in exciting fights every time I see him. And I would love to see him take on Joe Smith. If that fight could be made, I would immediately jump at it. And then obviously, Badu Jack is still around. And you've got Joshua Boazzi out there in the UK, who's considered one of their top tier. I'll call him prospect at this point. There was a time when there were rumblings about him fighting Anthony Yard, and maybe London Left Hook can call in and talk about Boatsi a little bit. But Boatsi is a guy that I'm interested in. What about you, Chicano? Who do you have your eyes on at 175?
Well, I agree with D. Like, I think a lot of these guys need to start mixing it up with each other. I do like the division, but I'm fairly new to kind of studying people that are outside of like the top 6, top 7. And I do think that after like the top 6 and top 7, I think that it starts getting a little bit thin, kind of like some other divisions as well. But at 175 has a lot of attention right now. There's still, the old guard like Kovalev out there. I'd love to see him mix it up with one of the top guys, Bivol, Beterbiev, or, with one of these young up-and-comers. There's a lot of fights that could be made that could be exciting, and there's a lot of unifications that should be made at that division right now. Somebody should be the heir apparent to face Canelo if Canelo decides to move up, to have that looming threat at the higher division of like the dominant guy to see. Because once those guys get made, I mean, that has weight and it carries as well. So I'd really like to see these guys get in the ring. And like I said about Canelo, like he's always a factor as well. He fought like the top 3 guy, top 4 guy, and he beat him. So anytime he decides to move up, when he does, that's going to be a factor as well.
Yeah, do you guys see Canelo being competitive at 175? That's the next thing I kind of wanted to ask about, because Reynoso's told him, you don't need to go to that weight class. You just find where you are at 168. I'm inclined to believe that and agree with it. What are your thoughts, Joe?
I don't like his size at 175. I think he's too short for 175. I don't think he's got the reach. I'm sure he can beat some of those guys up there. I think he'd have a nightmare with Bivol. He'd have a nightmare with Beterbiev. People had him losing the Kovalev fight before he knocked Kovalev out. So I just think the dimensions that he has is going to make it problematic for him to move up to 175, to be perfectly honest.
Before I get to you, D, salute to Shoeshine Boxing, who just joined us and is with us. We got A-Rod, obviously, again, Low Blow Boxing. Tony Boswell's in the house. Always good to see you, bro, along with Big Dog Willie. Sorry I couldn't get you on the call yesterday, but feel free to call in now if you want to chop it up with us live here on the roundtable. And London Left Hook, if you're still out there, you can also call in too. We got JC Outlaw and Run PMC joining us there too. What are your thoughts there, D, on Canelo's chances against any of the previously mentioned guys at 175? Is he competitive there?
If you ask me if Canelo's competitive there, I'm going to say yes, emphatically. If you ask me, should he fight there? No, he really shouldn't, because like Joe said, come on, guys. He's got the dimensions of a freaking welterweight. Just because Canelo's so good, they want him to do the impossible. And my thing is this, like, you wouldn't ask your favorite guy to do that. Let's take some guys that are 5'9", or at least close to, let's take an Errol Spence. Do you think Spence fans would want to force him to go up to 175? And because literally, Canelo dimension-wise is less than Spence. Like, come on, let's be serious. It's just like, because he achieves and because he accomplishes something, he never planned to campaign at 175. You idiots. All of these people are out here hollering and crying about what he planned. Look, it was a one-off fight. Let me get a belt in another division and then go concentrate where I belong. He never planned to campaign there. And because he beat up Kovalev, you got all of these people demanding Beterbiev and Bivol because they feel like this is what it's going to take to beat Canelo. Well, too bad. That's what makes the guy great. If there's no other guy around the 160, 168 that could cut the mustard, you can't force him to go get the shit beat out of him or somebody he shouldn't be fighting. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. It's just a demand. Like, you want to just see the guy lose. It gets to the point where you just want to see the guy lose.
Well, that's how I feel about Kovalev, D. I'd like to see him take on Artur Beterbiev for no other reason. I'd like him to see him get knocked the fuck out. But that's another issue altogether. But yeah, it's exactly what it is. People want to see Canelo lose. I don't really think he's got anything to prove at 175. I think he should try to unify at 168. He's taking on, obviously, Yildirim this Saturday. The plan there is to follow that up in May with Billy Joe Saunders, and then obviously, hopefully, Caleb Plant in the fall. I don't know if Caleb Plant needs to start training tomorrow or if he's already in training for that fight, but we'll see. What's up, D?
Real quick, it was an interview. I can't even remember who was talking to Spence, right? And so they was asking him about where could he see himself in the future, right? And so the guy asked him 154. Spence like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be at 154, 160. Spence said, yeah, I could fight at 160. I could fight at 168. And then the guy says 175. He said, well, you trying to get me killed? Now this was the tough Errol Spence. Were you trying to get me killed? Well, let's realize where Canelo started from. Again, everybody's not Pacquiao. You're not going to see guys climbing 5 and 6 weight classes like it's not anything.
No.
Let's keep in mind where Canelo started from. And Spence even said, what are y'all trying to get me killed? So basically, they trying to get Canelo killed. They don't care. Just lose. Go in there with the biggest bat. It'll be cruiserweight before it's all over with. They're going to cruiserweight. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah,
That's a good point, D.
The better be a fight is a dangerous fight, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's
absolutely
a good point, D. And I also want to give a shout out to Big Dog Willie for the super chat. He says 154 has the most comp. 130, 135 have the best young guys. Heavyweight and welterweight is top heavy and overrated. Yeah, I mean 154 is pretty competitive, but I do agree about heavyweight and welterweight. I mean the welterweights have just been disappointing, man. I'm very disappointed with what's going on down there.
Facts. And one thing I will say, though, and I'm a huge Pac-Man fan, but, I mean, we got to keep it real, though, too, with the weight jumping. I mean, just do the math. 108 to 112, 112 to 115, 115 to 118. You're talking about weight classes that are separated by 3 pounds, right? I understand that he's a lot smaller, so the gap means more, but it doesn't mean that much more. I mean, there's a huge jump between welterweight, which is where Canelo started, and 175 pounds, as D just said. So, yeah, D, you're absolutely on the money with that. Sorry if I interrupted you there, G Funky.
If we were in the days of the same day weigh-ins, then Canelo probably would be fighting at 175 pounds, because he's usually around that range on the night of the fight. I know he was always in the 170-pound range when he was at 154. So, but that's just not the case. If he's going to move up to 175 and fight those guys that are there now, they're going to be 190 possibly, maybe even heavier, while he'll be around, the same weight, 175 on the fight night. So, yeah, if it was those days, it'd be no doubt about it, but that's just not the way it works today.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it is. And again,
you can fight a guy that's literally like with the way these guys. Sorry, Emil. I was just going to say with the way these guys are. You look all around and they're cutting 25, 30 pounds. Bro, he could be fighting a guy that's 205, like 210. That walk around. That's insane to ask him to do that. That to me, that's just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to big up Alexis for the super chat, and again, Big Dog Willie for the super chat earlier on. And yeah, you're absolutely right there, D. Guys, there's weight classes for a reason, man. It's to protect the fighters and to keep competition at least somewhat competitive. And I think you're spot on the money on that one, D.
I agree, but I still think that there's a lot of clout to be made by being the man at 175. Like if you look historically, when we were looking at Floyd Mayweather, there was a time we were saying, well, he's the best, but he wants no part of Sergio Martinez. Like he wouldn't go up and do that. Same thing with Triple G. Like, oh, he won't go up and fight Ward. There's clout to be made by solidifying power at 175. And I think these guys should really take the opportunity to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And next topic, I actually want to go to Joe, who's the expert on this. He did a video that I really enjoyed watching. I probably shouldn't admit it, but I was watching it between classes on Fury and the situation at heavyweight, and essentially whether or not this fight will happen this year, and more importantly as well, the impact of this long break on Tyson Fury. Why don't you lead us in on this one, Joe?
Well, I'm a huge Tyson Fury fan, as everyone knows. My favorite fighter in the sport today. But I have to be real about the situation that's going on right now with Tyson Fury. A lot of people tried to tell me, Beeb, you know how Tyson Fury is. He's so erratic. He says he's going to fight this guy, he's going to fight that guy, but you never know if the fight's going to come off until he's actually in the ring. And this is another one of those situations. I think he's having regrets not fighting that third Wilder fight because obviously it's just kept him out of the ring so long, about a year and a half. Eddie Hearn keeps saying that this fight is close to being announced, but here we are, and we're less than a week away from March, and they haven't announced a fight yet that's supposed to happen in June. So if they don't announce this fight by the end of February, then how much time are they going to have to promote this fight? So all evidence basically leads me to believe that this fight is not going to happen in June. Given Tyson Fury's comments, given the fact that Eddie keeps saying, "Oh, we're going to announce it soon. We're going to announce it soon. We're going to announce it soon," keeps saying that. But when is soon going to be? So you got one side saying one thing, you got another side saying another thing. And Tyson Fury has a history of not always going through with fights that he says he's going to go through with. He didn't fight Klitschko in the rematch. Didn't fight Wilder the third time. The fight with David Haye he was supposed to have was scrapped. So every time we get excited, he gets our juices flowing. He pulls the rug out from underneath us. And as much as I like the guy, I cannot ignore the erratic behavior. I cannot ignore the history. I cannot ignore the empirical data. So if you ask me, is this fight going to happen in June? I don't think so. And I was so adamant about saying that it was going to happen in June. I got into a debate with this guy, M Stacks, and he kept saying, I said to him, I said, this fight going to happen? He goes, well, you know how Fury is. You never know if a fight's going to happen when he says it's going to happen because he's pulled on. I was going back and forth with him. I was saying, no, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I was so adamant about this fight happening. But I have to say right now, I am not very confident or optimistic right now about this fight happening in June. I'm just not.
Where do you stand, D? D Jefferson?
Oh, my bad. I was on mute.
It's all good.
I was talking to a guy, and I never even really say his name because I want to keep this one confident. I don't want him to stop talking to me. Let me say it that way. But they're pretty confident, and he told me this actually about a month and a half ago of June or July is what I think BB was right on. Like, still stay confident because I was told June or mid to late July. And that's what he told me a while ago. And what they're trying to hash out is just fine details. Like, everything is almost pretty much agreed upon. It's just like some little fine details. But you know how these contracts are. Until both sides' lawyers are okay, then it ain't gonna be signed, right? So it's just like some little fine details. But I think they're still looking good for June, or like I said, late June or July, mid-July. But the thing with Fury and Beeb, I'm a Fury fan too. Everybody on my channel knows it. There's only one Tyson Fury. I remind them of that all the time, right? Problem is, he is, bro. The dude's sporadic. You don't know what he's going to do. And that's why I tell people, like, I'm a Fury fan, but when people give me the heat about, Fury being off his rocker sometime and not knowing if he's going to go left or right, I don't argue that because we don't know. This son of a bitch is crazy. Doesn't mean I don't like him. I still like him.
That's what I say.
So, yeah, that's what I think about it.
Yeah.
I think it'll happen.
Well, let me just say this. Could this all be mind games? Because remember during the rematch with with Wilder, the second fight, remember how he was like saying that he was leaking he was leaking information out that he was going like through an injury, that he turned his ankle over or something like that. And then Eddie Hearn was like, yeah, I was going to pick Fury, but I heard, something happened to him in camp. He's going through an injury or whatever. And then after the fight, he comes out and says, oh, no, I wasn't injured. I just put that out there. I wanted to play head games. I just wanted to, pull a fast one on the people. So is he saying all this stuff to play mind games with Joshua? That's always a possibility as well too. Is he just saying all this stuff to try to make, the old saying, when you're strong, make yourself look weak, and when you're weak, make yourself look strong? Is that what he's doing right now?
Good question. I mean, he's talked at length, Joe, and I know you know this, D, you know this, probably everybody here knows this, about his mental health issues. And after the Wilder fight, he spoke about how important it was and is for him to have like a regular schedule and to be fighting more often and to be working out constantly. And then all of the Wilder fights fell through. And then he was supposed to fight in December and never did. And now it's been over a year since the Wilder fight. And let's be honest, I mean, AJ has fought much more recently, and AJ's probably got a little bit more confidence coming off of that win. Because for me, confidence or lack thereof has got to be one of his biggest Achilles heels at this point, since being battered by Andy Ruiz. I just have not seen the same AJ. Actually, I haven't seen the same AJ since the Vladimir fight, when he tasted the deck. He wasn't the same against Takam. He wasn't the same against Joe
Parker.
Parker. Thank you very much. So yeah, the time would have been right for him to get him soon, I think. What are your thoughts, Chicano?
Well, I think Tyson Fury, he's definitely a mind games master. And I do think that everything he says publicly is for a reason. And so it's hard for me to say right now, like, really what's going on with everything. Like, I do think that Tyson Fury is very calculated. And some of the things he said has made me think that he is going to fight. But then recently, I've seen videos of him overweight running into like some water, and everybody's talking like, oh my gosh, look at this guy. How's he supposed to fight? He's getting fat. And then, I'm such a conspiracy theorist. I find myself wondering if that was like last February. Who knows? There's a lot of interesting aspects with Tyson Fury, the way he speaks, but he's also somebody who could get depressed. He's somebody who could just lose interest, but he's also said that there's fights that really bring him power and make him want to fight. And I think that an undisputed heavyweight championship fight against, Anthony Joshua being the biggest fight that can be made, the biggest UK fight to probably ever be made, should really inspire him to be hitting the road and to do good work now to try to make this fight happen. And I understand that, he is right. A year off in between fights will hurt you a little bit, but I mean, he's got to be sharp and he's still young. Like, I think that he should really try to push this for June. And if it doesn't happen, I think boxing will be at a loss for it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tyson Fury. Okay, so when you talk about these mind games, and Chicano Prophet just made a good point where he said, because he did say this, he said those are the fights, those big fights, like the Vladimir, the Deontay Wilder, the guys that everybody think is this guy. Those are the fights that gets his blood boiling. Those are the ones that he really wants to get up for. But with Tyson Fury, it's sort of like we just heard Adrian Broner say something. Well, I don't know if you guys, I was talking about it on one of my lives. But
I heard it. I know what you're going to say.
He needs to continue to fight. He wanted to fight 3 times this year because he needs to continue to fight to keep him out of trouble, to keep him, focused on the game. And we hear sometimes as fans, we take the cry that these fighters are giving us, we take it for granted. We just don't even really listen to it. But Tyson Fury is a guy, sort of in the sense like Adrian Broner, where you look at these guys and say, hey, they're a few cards short of a full deck. Something right up there, right? And these guys are telling you that I need to keep fighting. Broner said it. Tyson says it, right? I need to keep fighting. And so then when you don't see these guys continue to fight, again, as fans, we take a lot of things that they say and just, that's just something he said. But maybe, like, I need to keep fighting, right? So, I mean, this pandemic, I think about, okay, mentally, it could be mental warfare with Joshua. I could definitely get that. But sometimes these guys are making a cry and they telling the fans it's the truth. Like they want to stay in the ring. He didn't get that fight. It could affect him. We gotta see.
Yeah, you're right. And the thing with Fury is this isn't something new. This is something he said in the past. This is something he said after the Klitschko fight. This is something he said during his comeback when he was preparing to get back in the ring and take on Wilder. He says he needs to be in the ring. He needs to fight often. And you know, I don't know if it's been his fault or whether it's his management's fault or whether it was the promoters with Bob Arum and ESPN not being able to, you know, come together and agree around a venue and an opponent and everything else. But he didn't get that fight in December, and it could end up costing him. Only time will tell. Is G Funky, you have any thoughts on this before we close it out with the last topic?
Well, I'll say this. Ever since this sort of news came out about Fury having doubts at the fight we made, we automatically get the well, he should have just fought Wilder, blah blah blah. But the thing is this, Wilder waited too long. There was a pandemic. He waited too long, and by the time he opened his mouth about anything, he came up with a million excuses. Now Fury's saying, "I'll never fight you." Now he's still firm on that he's not going to fight Wilder. So that's out the window. But yeah, this would be disappointing if it doesn't happen because I'm a guy, I want undisputed, especially at heavyweight. Like, it's been such a long time since we had the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. I mean, that just sounds like, man, that just sounds so good, doesn't it? The undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, So I wish it happens, man. I really do. But it's a tricky time, man. It's a tricky time, and I know that they want fans. They want to get the most money out of it, and who knows where they're gonna put it. So it's I just hope it happens, man. But hey, there's time if they're trying to make it into summertime or whatever. There's time for you to take a tune-up. If you want to get in there and get a tune-up with somebody, get that out the way, get your ass back in shape, and then you're ready for the fight, whether it be summer or early fall.
Yeah, I mean, I think boxing fans, and I'm just speaking for myself here, but there's nothing like a heavyweight title fight when all the chips are on the line. And it's been a long time since that's happened. It takes me back to when I was a kid and Lennox Lewis fought, obviously, Evander Holyfield. And it was a result that really upset me because I was a Lewis fan. But I don't think I've ever felt what I felt prior to that fight. Again, since that fight. I mean, there's something super special about heavyweight title fights, especially when they're undisputed heavyweight title fights. I see you nodding your head there, Chicano.
No, I just agree. Like, even if you favor one fighter over the other, there's something really special about it. As boxing fans, the undisputed heavyweight championship fight of the world, like, all boxing fans are going to tune in for that, regardless of what time it's at. If you're a hardcore fan or even a casual fan, like, you're going to be tuning into this. And I do hope that it gets made for us because this could easily just start slipping through the cracks, especially if these belts all fall apart off the fighters specifically. Like, if they start falling off of AJ, who knows? There might be mandatories that need to get fulfilled. Like, this could easily slip past us. And I hope that it doesn't, because right now we've seen a storyline play out. Now you got the final two guys, and I'd really love to see it come to a head and finally get the ending that we've all been looking for.
Yep, absolutely. D, I see you. You're not talking with us. All right, so look, we're gonna close out today.
Emil,
yeah, go ahead.
I seen something on the list you guys sent me, right?
Yep.
And if Canelo loses,
yeah, we're gonna get to that right now. Yeah, that's actually what we're getting to. So look, as you guys know, we're missing someone here. I don't know what it has to do with what happened on Tuesday. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Not quite sure if that's the case or not. But D-Style took a pie to the face on Tuesday. Pretty hilarious, actually. I had a lot of good time watching it, following the chat. Very active chat that night. Memorable moment in the history of Leave It in the Ring and HCP specifically. So that's why D-Styles come up with this topic for us to to talk about. I think D-Style might want a little bit of some company in that area in terms of getting embarrassed on camera on his own channel, but we'll see. So the question is, what are we willing to do? All right, what's the craziest thing we're willing to do if Yildirim pulls off the upset, all right, this Saturday night on DAZN and beats none other than Canelo Alvarez? What are you willing to do? What would you be willing to do if that happens? Let's start with you, D, because it seemed like you wanted to jump right into this topic.
Well, I just thought it was kind of weird because I really don't want to do anything.
Right.
but no, and I think it's cool. Don't get me wrong. But here's something. I mean, what would be crazy for me? Because I've not been booty face since the middle school, right? So like I would literally cut all of this off. And to me, that would be huge because it just would look weird to me. Right.
Yeah.
The clean lip. I've not been clean face since middle school. So I would cut all of this off if Yildirim was to beat Canelo, and I doubt it, but I would do it on camera too. And I think, like, just thinking about it, I would look like crazy weird because I used to see it myself without hair on my face. You know what I mean? I can't cut my head because God already took care of that. So
okay,
to put that out there.
All right, so I'll actually, you know what?
I'll go next.
Go next, G.
I mean, I would buy another T-shirt. I know D-Style put that in the chat before I had a chance to go, but I was just going to say that I'll buy another T-shirt. Last time I placed a bet was the Kovalev fight, and he won, so I had to buy the Canelo T-shirt. But I'd buy another one, or maybe a hat, or I'd join D-Style and take a pie to the face, man. If Yildirim gets the win. So I want you guys in the chat. Let me know what you guys want me to do. You want me to get some more Canelo merchandise or take a pie to the face? Let me know.
I got one for you, G Funky, based on what I heard you say about this the other day. How about you wear a Dodger blue next show, hat and jersey?
Man, I cannot do that, man. I'm a guy, you know, I like to honor my bets. I don't think I could ever do that, man. I don't think there's anything in the world that could make me do that, man. That would just, no.
All right, Chicano, you're up next, bro.
Well, I want everybody to enjoy the fight this weekend. A showcase fight can be nice. I like showcase fights sometimes because I could focus on my barbecue and not get nervous about the fight that's going to happen later on. So if Canelo loses, what I'm going to do for you all is I'm going to be sponsoring 5 fight parties for the Cinco de Mayo Billy Joe Saunders weekend fight. 5 fight parties, including beer, pizza, maybe some wings. It's going to be nice because I'm not cheap, but it won't happen, so I'm not worried about it. And I hope this doesn't, skew who you hope wins. So just enjoy the fight this weekend. But otherwise, 5 parties.
Fair enough. That's a good one. Joe, you're up next, and then I'll go.
I'm so confident Canelo is going to win this fight. I have no doubts at all. But if for some strange reason lightning did strike, I would go full De La Hoya. I'd put the panties and bra on.
Oh, don't do that.
That's funny. Yeah.
But
I'm certain too.
I think I'd rather do that than put on some Dodgers gear, but I still wouldn't do either.
Imagine me showing up to work as Maestra A and not a Maestro A.
Well, I'm not leaving the house. I'm not leaving the house. Don't get me. I'm not walking down the street like that. This is going to be in the Beeb headquarters.
I do got to ask you guys.
Yeah.
Do you really want to see Beeb in a bra and some fishnets?
No.
No, I don't. So, fuck. You kind of took mine from me, D, because I've been working on this for a while. I've only had it the last couple years. Before that, I was always clean, 100%. And I'm also growing this out because I'm going to eventually braid it out and then put some dreads in there once it gets long enough. So I would have to say, but I don't want to cut that though. That's the thing. Let me actually follow along Chicano's line there. And I recently moved back to YouTube TV, right? Shout out YouTube TV. I think it's the most affordable option if you want to watch like live sports. I added the Showtime package to it. I will sponsor a listener of this show for 3 months straight if Canelo takes an L, and I'll do that through YouTube TV. So that's my offer right there. 3 months straight YouTube TV, Showtime package included if Canelo takes the loss, because I'm not showing up to work as Maestra Maestra A. It's just not going to happen, and you're not going to be. You're not going to be seeing me shaving this down either. So
here's what I'm going to do then. Since everybody's got their crazy bets in, including D Style, I'm changing my prediction now, because you guys know I'm hot right now. No, I'm just playing with you guys.
You are.
I'll stick with Canelo.
Well, I thought you was going crazy there for a second. Like, really? No.
Well, I'm guessing you guys don't believe in the power of Yoel Diaz, man.
No,
I don't either. So
yes, he's gonna need the power of Jesus to get past Canelo.
I was listening to the press conference today, and even Yoel Diaz kind of knows that they're probably not going to win. He wasn't sitting there saying like, "Oh, we're going to stun the world." He did not say anything like that. He has a lot of respect for Canelo and Reynoso.
There you go. All right, so last words. We'll start with G Funky.
Well, it is still post week after Valdez shocks the world, and I got to end the show again with another "I told you so." I'm tired of telling this to you guys. I don't like to do this, but you guys make me. All right. But no, this is a great show, man. And I want to thank you, everybody, for watching, and everybody that joined. Make sure that you guys subscribe to everybody here. Everybody's got a channel here on YouTube. And yeah, man, let's enjoy the fights this weekend. It sucks that Martinez pulled out of the fight. I guess he injured his hand or something like that on the undercard of the Canelo Yildirim. So that's a big letdown there. But still, we got some fights on. Parker this weekend as well. Good to see him back in the ring. So yeah, man, you guys stay tuned, and thanks for watching.
That was actually the fight that I was looking forward to the most, G Funky, the Arroyo fight, man, with Martinez. I thought that was going to be a good fight. So that was definitely a disappointing news. Last thoughts, D?
Hey, man, I always appreciate you guys having me over here. Yildirim beating Canelo, the biggest upset by far. Like, nobody cares about Joshua upset, this Warrington upset. I think that would be even bigger than Joshua Ruiz, right? That thing would be huge. Envy Yildirim beating Canelo, right? So, this is one of those things. But hey, it's boxing. Anything can happen. But I wanted to say this about Tyson Fury, man. I think for sure he's going to take Joshua because, you got to look at this. Tyson Fury has done everything as far as these belts, collected all of them, even international and European titles. He has this picture where he has all of his belts lined up that he collected, over his, and it's as long as his body. He's sitting there laying on the floor, and all of these belts going down are as long as his body. He's done it all. Ring magazine, twice everything. He wants this Joshua fight, which is why he said earlier that even without the WBC belt, and people thought it was crazy, he still wants to fight Joshua. Because consensus-wise, the belt doesn't matter. If I beat this guy, it's no more questions. I was the best. I beat Vlad. I beat Wilder. I beat Joshua. Consensus-wise, those were all of the best guys, and I took them out. That's huge for Tyson Fury. That's huge for Fury. And I think he takes this fight because he believes, and I believe he can beat Joshua. I don't think that Joshua, the boxing, man, is going to be too much. The boxing, the length, the size, and Tyson Fury can see it. He can see that he can beat this guy. So I just wanted to end with this. There's only one Tyson Fury, and don't forget it.
At some point, we're going to have to team up, me, you, and Joe, and do a Tyson Fury special because we're big fans of the dude. In fact, Fury along with Inoue, I still got to say Rigo because he's still an active fighter. Those are my 3 favorite fighters in the game. But yeah, absolutely.
Chicano, how about this? How about you 3 guys, Maestro, D and B, if the fight gets made, you guys come on and sing "Sweet Caroline" to everybody.
Or he likes to sing American Pie, actually, doesn't he? After his wins.
Man, I've seen him sing quite a few songs. He did American Pie. I think after he beat Klitschko, he sang some Aerosmith song.
Yeah, don't want to miss a thing.
Yeah.
There you go. Drew saying he's the biggest Fury fan. Well, you could call in, bro, and join in. Chicano Prophet, last words?
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. Enjoy the fights this weekend. You know, there's a good showcase fight this weekend that you all can enjoy. And I do think that we need to start appreciating fan enthusiasm more. There's nothing wrong with us liking fighters. There's a stigma that's been created on YouTube for some reason about it like being a problem to like fans. The sport thrives on fan enthusiasm. So enjoy your fighters, enjoy your fights, and just be sure to remember that to enjoy what's in the ring. That's what's most important, not the dialogue that you hear all around here. Enjoy the sweet science.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to definitely agree with that. And look, we had big news today. Super proud of Teo. Happy he made it happen for himself. Independence is always a good thing. Maximizing your value as a worker is always a good thing. And you know what? Fighters working with each other to do that, I think, is a good thing. And I've been saying for a long time that there should be a union in boxing, just the way there is in baseball, in basketball, even the tennis players right now. Federer, Nadal, these guys are organizing for better pay, better working conditions, you know, better shares of TV revenue, all of that good stuff. And I think fighters should be doing that. So look, before I go, just wanted to thank everyone for being here. Thanking D-Style for having me host today. I look forward to D-Style being back with us. Not the same without him, obviously, here on the Leave It in the Ring panel. Want to make sure everyone knows where to catch everyone. Joe Habib, you do the betting with Beeb. I don't know if that's a set schedule, but I set my timer. I set my notifications for it when it comes up. But you can catch Joe Sundays with Eric Lorda on Ringside Reporter. All right, you can catch D. Jefferson in the mornings, funny enough, at 8 and in the afternoons, right, D?
Yes, sir. Between 8 and 8:30 or 1 and 1:30. We got our daily lives. And Habib and Chicano Prophet. One time, bro, I got you guys on DM. If you could join me, I'll make sure that I got all of the idiots not on live that day, because I like you guys' energy. I know you guys see my show and it can get wild, so I'll make sure I have the right panel guests, maybe like Unrivaled or Brian, you know, some guys that you know, more sensible there. But I would love to.
You will be inviting Brotherhood, in other words.
Negative.
Okay.
You will be the non-invited list. You won't be on the list.
All right. So yeah, G Funky Tuesdays, obviously with D-Style here on this channel, Hispanics Causing Panic. Recently, I believe, moved to 9 p.m. And then obviously Hispanics Causing Panic Uncensored on his channel Wednesdays. You can catch me, Maestro Amili, Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, 5 p.m. on my channel, Maestro A. Please do like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 because I would like to name my channel. Unfortunately, you can't even name your channel before you get 100 subs on YouTube, and I still got that gibberish behind my YouTube name. And then, obviously, you can catch me with Dave Duenas Leaving in the Ring Monday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And yeah, like and subscribe, share this video, do all that good stuff, and we'll see everyone again after the fights. Hopefully, Joe won't be wearing the panties in the bra, though.
Come on, Canelo. Come on, Canelo.
Give G Funky his respect, goddammit.
There you go. Oh, and I forgot. The shoe shine. I almost forgot the shoe shine. Shoe shine. My man Dave from the 408. He's also trying to get his numbers up. Name his channel too. We're both new to YouTube, so it's been a slow but a very fulfilling grind. All right. So good night, everyone. Thank you for being online here with us, and we'll see you again next time.
Fuck you, Teddy Atlas.